Art Carney is the winner in Thank You, Glenda, good people of the Academy, and ladies and gentlemen. Art Carney got 6 Emmys for his role as Ed Norton. He won the Oscar instead of Pacino, but he didn't say a word when his popular co-star from The Honeymooners died in 1996. In Hollywood, everyone gave thanks. The family of Jackie Gleason sent flowers. People from the old group cried on TV. It was quiet from Art Carney. In her biography, she wrote that he was smart and kind. She hoped they would talk again one day. They didn't. What they did was more sinister than anyone knew. He was born in Mount Vernon, New York, on November 4, 1918. He was the 6th boy in a very Irish Catholic home. His dad worked for a newspaper, but the alcohol that ran through their house like water changed Art more. 3 of his older brothers drank too much. His dad also drank. Most of us boys didn't smoke, but we did drink, Art once said. That was more than just a statement. It was a message. As a teenager, he started drinking daily, not just sometimes or with friends. He thought drinking was normal as a child. He was going to fall into it, not if, but when. He was good early on. Being Franklin D. Roosevelt was one of his best tricks. He wasn't just him. He was him. The tone, the voice, and the stop. People who were listening to the radio thought that the president was talking. It became so strong that federal agents got involved. They were afraid it would make things harder during the war. Some foreign officials even thought that what he was doing was a real speech. It was risky, but it made him famous. After that, he used that voice on radio shows to sound like Roosevelt, Churchill, and Eisenhower, among others. Thanks to his bigger brother, Carney was already playing with the Horace Heights Orchestra by the time he was 18. It sounded very fancy. It wasn't. Fred Lowry, a blind whistler, lived with him. He also brought Art to drinking in the morning but not coffee. Gin and orange juice every day. Felt like freedom at first. There are no rules and no blame. But that freedom turned into a cage very quickly. He wasn't even aware that he was hooked. He had a clear memory of one event. During a live show, he was so drunk that he couldn't even spell the name of the sponsor. Tums. He spoke slowly and slurred his words. Sponsors were very angry. At age 23, he quit the band before they could fire him. After that, there was war. He got married for the 4th time on August 15, 1944. His job was to operate a machine gun in France with the 28th Infantry Division. A German mortar went off close. He got hit in the right leg by a piece of armor. He hadn't even shot his gun yet. Afterward, he laughed that he had never fired a gun and might not have wanted to. But the hurt person wasn't joking. His left leg was 3/4 of an inch longer than his right. He always walked with a limp. It took 9 months of healing for one man with a Purple Heart and deep wounds. He got an award and some scars that no one could see when he got home. His limp was clear. It wasn't the pain. He drank more. He used barbaric words. He began taking amphetamines. For him, the war was over after just 2 months. But the effects would last forever. Occasionally, he lost it. He couldn't handle the stress. Back then, no one called it PTSD, but that's what it was. In 1965, he crashed so hard that he had to leave the odd pair. He wouldn't finally get clean until almost 30 years after the war. Carney was on the radio all the time in the late 1940s. It was with Milton Berle, Fred Allen, and Maury Amsterdam that he worked. It was easy to get help from him. He was the second banana. Any voice, any joke, he could do it. He drank more than ever when he was behind the mic, though. He slurred his words sometimes. He would sometimes pass out. They hired him again and again. Too few people had his skill. The producers didn't deal with his drinking. Instead, they worked around it. It was hard for him after the war. Could a man who walks with a limp do well on TV? He got it done. To keep his legs straight, he had shoes made just for him. He didn't just hide the limp, though. He made use of it. He used it as part of his jokes. His strange walks and dance moves were not just random. They were staying alive. He used pain as a way to perform. His fans didn't know. They laughed it off. But he couldn't escape the truth. It got worse to drink. With Horace Heights Band, he was already on the edge. Now he was drinking again, and this time it was worse. He wasn't happy about leaving the band when he was 23. He did it because he had to. He was a poor choice. It was already too late for him to fix his problem. There would be many more. He did some stand-up. It didn't work. Not because he wasn't funny, but because he was scared of being on stage. The looks of the crowd, the silence, and the stress. It made him feel anxious. He drank to calm down. He then took pills to get smarter. He had to take more pills just to sleep after that. This was the start of a bad circle. Fear, drugs, shame, and more fear. The person who made radio stars famous couldn't handle being the center of attention by himself. He had ghosts in his personal life too. She was his high school sweetheart, and they got married in 1940. Their 3 kids were named Eileen, Brian, and Paul. But drug abuse caused the marriage to fall apart. Art Carney almost didn't make history on TV because he didn't think he fit. He didn't think it was a mistake when radio writers asked him to do a sketch with Jackie Gleason on Cavalcade of Stars in 1951. Gleason was already a star on the rise. Carney didn't think that wealthy person knew who he was. It wasn't an act of shyness. He had been taking the show as Newton the waiter on the My Amsterdam show without anyone noticing. But he still thought of himself as a small person. That way of thinking would affect everything that came after. There was a man whose skills could make a room full. Still, he had doubts about himself the whole time. That sketch became The Honeymooners, and everyone met Ed Norton. People knew him by his white t-shirt, open vest, and pork pie hat. It wasn't all smooth though, behind the scenes. Carney wanted things to be perfect. He thought it was important to practice every word, move, and beat. Gleason, he wanted nothing to plan. He thought practicing too much would make the magic less powerful. Carney was going to come ready to practice, but Gleason said no. That's why Carney built Norton's character by himself. He even wore special shoes to hide the fact that he walked with a limp because of an injury he got in battle. Carney was in charge of the silly moves and the timing. Working out by myself, pushed by stress, pain, and ultimately pills. Art Carney's life wasn't funny while he was making The Honeymooners. All 39 shows were filmed in real time in front of 1,000 people at the Adelphi Theater in Manhattan. That was enough to put pressure on it. But Jackie Gleason made things more difficult. He was known for changing lines right before the show. He thought that practicing too much would take away from the joy. On stage, the actors often didn't know their lines when they went on. It was hell for Carney. He was very picky about details. He needed to get ready. Instead, he would get fresh lines and stage directions right before going on stage in front of a live crowd. The stress was too much to handle. In order to stay alive, the group came up with secret visual cues. When Gleason forgot a line, he would pat his stomach. When someone had to go to the fridge, Audrey Meadows would look at it. On screen, everything looked fine, but Carney was having a terrible time backstage. He drank and took pills to deal with things. Anything to calm his mind down. In 1956, the end of the show seemed like a big blow. It had dropped from number 2 in the US to number 19. For Carney, though, it was a release. No more rewriting at the last minute and no more panic attacks before live shows. His boss even said that Gleason has other plans for the future that don't include Carney. That also makes Carney happy. He was free at last and he made the most of it. His first show on Broadway was The Rope Dancers in 1957. He played James Hyland, a broken and drunk father. 6 Tony Awards were given to the play, which ran for 189 performances. He was praised by many. People said he was great at combining weakness, charm, and sadness. But not many people saw that the part wasn't that hard. Carney was drinking a lot already. He had been for many years. Then he played his most famous stage part. In 1965, Carney played Felix Anger for the first time in Neil Simon's The Odd Couple, which starred Walter Matthau. It worked out great. Matthau was a mess. Carney was right on. The show was an enormous hit. Critics went crazy. Tony Randall, who later played Felix on TV, said that Carney's part was the first and best. Felix was more than just a clean freak because of Carney. He gave him a personality, made him funny, and made him vulnerable. Even Jack Lemmon, who played Felix in the movie, had a hard time getting away from Carney's shade. But while his stage work was going great, his home life was falling apart. Things were going badly in his 25-year marriage by 1965. There were 3 kids and a long past between him and Jean Myers, but it couldn't last because of his drug use. Carney had begun drinking when he was a teenager. He was also hooked on barbiturates and amphetamines by the 1960s. He said that his old comic partner would have gin and grapefruit juice for breakfast one time. Things got worse over time. Jean had helped him for years, but he started acting in strange and dangerous ways. She was fed up with it all. In the same year, the marriage ended, and then something even stranger took place. It's true that Carney started to sound like Felix Air. He developed obsessive habits away from the stage. The most unsettling thing was how he stacked coins. In his dressing room, he would arrange coins in straight lines by size, color, and worth. He couldn't go on stage if even one was wrong. Others at work began to notice. People said he missed cues and pushed back scenes because he couldn't stop setting things up. The person and the man became less clear-cut. Felix wasn't just a part anymore. It looked like a cage. Carney hit rock bottom in October 1965, only 7 months into The Odd Couple's run. He had a full mental and physical breakdown and went to a psychiatric hospital in Hartford to get help. He stayed there for almost 6 months. He told the truth about everything. The drinking, the drugs, and the breakdown. He stated, "My first marriage was breaking up and I was not in good shape. Broadway had already shown that Art Carney was good at what he did. He was great as Felix Anger in The Odd Couple." Critics and even Tony Randall praised him, and Randall later said Carney was the first and best Felix. But something terrible happened when it was time to make the 1968 movie version. Pinewood picked Jack Lemmon instead. They said it was about making money at the box office. But Carney had a different idea. He thought that his recent breakdown and the fact that he had admitted to being addicted to drugs made him too risky or even uninsurable for a big-budget movie. He never got rid of that thought. The movie made more than $44.5 million, making it the 3rd most successful movie of that year. Seeing it succeed without him there was not only upsetting, it scared him. But there were signs that things were getting worse before Hollywood turned its back on him. Strange things began to be seen by friends and coworkers. Carney began acting like Felix Anger when he was under a lot of stress. The change in his pocket would be neatly stacked on the vanity table, with the smallest coins on top and the biggest coins on the bottom. It wasn't just strange. It was crazy. People around him knew what it meant. He was going down again. That's what they could see. He was getting more and more close to another breakdown the more he behaved like Felix. As time went on, it was tough to tell the difference between Carney and Felix. Then, in 1966, Jackie Gleason called Art Carney on the phone. There was no sign of Carney in public because he was depressed and abusing drugs. But Gleason wanted Ed Norton back, and Carney had always had that person inside him. Carney came back against all odds. And there was something magical that happened when the Honeymooners came back as part of the Jackie Gleason show. Fans turned on. Norton's strange moves, clumsy dancing, and loyal charm were all back, and they were even better than before. No one thought Carney would be as good as he was. He got his 4th Emmy in 1966, then his 5th in 1967, then a 6th in 1968. 3 years, 3 Emmys, and he could hardly keep it together. Music was added to the show for the first time. He sang, danced, and made people laugh like nothing was wrong. But later, he told someone something scary in private. At that time, playing Ed Norton not only saved his job, it also saved his life. He had a reason to be that character when everything else was going wrong. The show's bright lights couldn't hide what was going on behind the scenes, though. Even though Carney had quit drugs after his time in the sanitarium, alcohol still held him back.